Welcome to the Dinosaur George podcast, a show about paleontology and other earth sciences. Dinosaur George is a public speaker, author, and TV host with 30 years of study in paleontology. He has performed live in over 4,500 events across the US and Canada. Now, here is Dinosaur George.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to podcast number 115. I'm Dinosaur George, your host. In this episode, we're going to highlight in our feature creature segment Parasaurolophus, one of the coolest looking dinosaurs that's ever been discovered. We've also got an interview with paleontologist, author, and artist Tracy Ford about his new book called Dinosaur Isle. It's a great interview. Tracy's a very interesting guy with a very long history in paleontology. And at the end, if time permits, we'll do a couple of Ask Dinosaur George segments. So sit back, relax, and let's get ready for about an hour's worth of dinosaurs.
Do you or someone you know like prehistoric life? Are you looking for that perfect gift for the dinosaur lover in your family? Our web store is filled with hundreds of replica claws, teeth, skulls, and more. Start a collection of your favorite animals today. Tyrannosaurus teeth, raptor claws, ice-aged mammal skulls, and more can be found in our catalog. Our prices are very affordable, and we don't add hidden or excessive shipping or handling charges. Visit us at store.dinosaurgeorge.com.
Well, it's sure great to see that winter has finally arrived here in San Antonio, Texas. By the way, winter for us is anything below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So I know all of you that live in the north and those of you that deal with actual winter are probably laughing. But yes, 50 degrees Fahrenheit is very cold when you live in San Antonio, Texas. Last weekend, we did a really big event in a town called Rio Grande City, Texas. There was 14,000 people that attended, and it was only a 4-hour event. So imagine 14,000 people crowded into an event over just a 4-hour period. It was a big turnout. They hired us to bring in our traveling museum. We'd never done an outdoor event before. Now, we were under a tent in a covered area, but it was a dirt floor. And at the time, my biggest concern was whether we would be able to roll in our large crates without the wheels being bogged down in the dirt. But the dirt was packed hard enough, so that didn't turn out to be an issue. But something did turn out to be a huge issue that I did not foresee, and that was what happens to the dirt floor when 14,000 people walk through. Well, what happened is it almost looked like the room was filled with smoke. There was so much dust. Everything we have is covered in a layer of dust. I don't know how we're going to clean it all up, but it is covered in dust. Yes, it makes the replicas look more authentic, but I honestly may have to take an air compressor, and the next time we set up the museum, we may have to take one piece at a time outside and blow the dust off of them. The crates are going to have to be wiped down. It was so bad I had to take all the table covers. We have something like 28 table covers. I had to take them all home with me and wash them because they were just covered in dust. So it was a great event as far as how many people got to see things. This city is right on the Texas-Mexico border, so a lot of people that came were from Mexico. They didn't even speak English, but you could see the looks on their faces when they saw these dinosaur bones, how excited they were to get to see them. I suspect for some of these folks, it's the first time they've ever seen anything like this. I know the kids were going crazy, so we loved it. So the event was huge, and the dust was an absolute killer, but then the event was supposed to end at 10 p.m. It was a 6 to 10 p.m. or 5 to 10. I can't remember. But anyway, we started seeing these gigantic flashes of lightning in the sky. And I looked at my phone and looked at the radar, and man, this massive storm was coming. And we were panicking because it's bad enough that my crates were covered in dust, but if they would have gotten wet, these are wooden crates, and it could have been really bad. So the wind started picking up dramatically, and all of a sudden this wall of rain hits. You've never seen 14,000 people clear out of a place faster than this. I've never seen. It's a miracle people weren't crushed. it just emptied. This big fairgrounds just became a ghost town within a matter of minutes. 14,000 people just disappeared. Now, the rain was blowing against. Now, again, we're under a tent, but the tent has sides. The problem is they did not secure the sides to the ground. The sides are just hanging down. So when this wind struck and the rain was blowing in, my staff and I had to run over. In fact, we had a couple of visitors there that helped us. We had to start picking up crates and moving them towards the center of the tented area because the water was coming in. And we are running like crazy, literally running from spot to spot, bringing them in closer and closer. And so everything ended up being piled up towards the center of the tent. It was crazy. It looked like, you guys know what a Chinese fire drill is? That was the old gag they used to do. You'd drive up to a stoplight. Everybody in the car would jump out and run and trade places, jump back in the car and drive off. It's called a Chinese fire drill. I don't know how it got that name. But anyway, that's sort of what we look like. The only thing missing is if somebody would have been filming that and playing that Benny Hill music in the background, that would have made it the perfect video, because you've never seen people running so fast trying to keep these crates from being destroyed. But anyway, we kind of lucked out because once that huge storm blew in, we had about a 2-hour window where there was no rain. We were able to load everything into our trailer, and so nothing got wet. But still, it's just really, really dirty stuff. But anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did it. Now, December, my schedule's pretty light December. It always is, because schools are kind of preparing for, kids getting out for the holiday season. So December, I have a little bit of time to do some more podcasts, and that's what I hope to do. Then January starts an enormous traveling museum schedule. We are on the road January, February, March, April, and May. It is going to be nuts. So I'm looking forward to that, but worried about it a little bit because of all the travel. It starts to wear you out. During my last podcast, I tried out doing a live feed on Facebook, and I think I'm going to do that again over sometime in the next week or two, sometime prior to Christmas. Basically, during that time, those of you who are following my Dinosaur George page on Facebook, you're going to be able to write in and ask questions while I'm recording the show. And I'll post the time and date on my page when the live feed will take place. Now, I've got 2 pages on Facebook. One is my personal page listed under George Blassing, Blasing. That's just a personal page, and unfortunately, I'm only allowed to have 5,000 friends. So I keep it at 4,999, but anybody can follow it. I think I've got another 9,000 followers on that page. So anybody can follow that page. But on my personal page, I use that more to do just sort of fun stuff, personal stuff, jokes, that kind of stuff. I don't do a lot of dinosaur-related stuff on it. Now, my Dinosaur George page is where the next live feed is going to take place. So if you're not following that page on Facebook and you want to participate in this live feed, please go to that page and follow me, because that's where the details are going to appear when I do my next event. It's going to be on the Dinosaur George page. All right, let's do our feature creature segment. This I always love this part.
It's time for our feature creature segment. If you would like to suggest a creature, go to dinosaurgeorgepodcast.com and post it in the comments section of this episode, or email us your suggestions to contact@dinosaurgeorge.com. And now, our feature creature.
Today's feature creature is Parasaurolophus. The name means near-crested lizard. The reason for that is they found another dinosaur called Saurolophus, which means crested lizard. Well, Parasaurolophus is something that was similar to that. That's how it got its name. It lived in the late Cretaceous between 73 and 76 million years ago. I had a young person write to me and say, why do you say things like 73 to 76? Shouldn't it be 76 to 73 million years ago? Well, when you're looking at time, you start with where you are and you go backwards. 73 million years is closer than 76. So that's why you often hear me refer to things like that when I talk about time. So 73 to 76 million years ago, this thing is a member of the hadrosaur family, which the word hadrosaur means water lizard. And, it's got the big flat duck bill, which can be confusing to young people because you would assume if its name means water reptile or water lizard, and it has a beak like a duck, then it probably acted and behaved like a giant duck, but nothing could be farther from the truth. These dinosaurs were quadruped, biped, meaning they could walk on two legs or they could walk on fours. They're not designed to be aquatic. They don't live in the water. Just because you have a feature that is similar to another animal, it doesn't mean that you have the same behavior as that other animal. The duck bill, the flat beak, is really designed for cropping off a large amount of vegetation at a time. And so that's really the function of it, more than likely. So it's not an animal that lives in the water. This is an animal that would have lived on land. Think of them more as deer than ducks, because that's probably more similar to what their life is like, spending the majority of their time on land. It's a relatively big dinosaur, grew to be 35 feet long, and its remains have been found in Alberta, Canada, in New Mexico, and then in Utah. It was first described, and what we mean by described is when a paleontologist describes a new species of dinosaur, they have to go through a series of things that involve them researching to ensure that is a new kind of dinosaur. So once they've gone through that, they're given the opportunity to give it a name. So that's what it means by described. It was described in 1922 by William Parks, a paleontologist who found a skull and partial skeleton in Alberta. But the most amazing thing about this dinosaur is the crest. That's the long tube that came off of the top and back of its head. Those crests could be 6 feet long, and man, there's been so much debate as to what that crest is. Some people think it was used to create low-frequency sound to communicate with other members of the family. What's kind of neat about that is that if, in fact, it could create low frequency, then other animals may not have been able to hear it. So members of its own family may have been able to hear it, but other animals may not have if it was subfrequent, if it was very, very low. So that's kind of cool. That's sort of like the first cell phone, where those animals are using their head as a way to communicate, and hopefully nobody else can break in on your conversation. So that may have been one thing. Now, other people think it may have been a tool that was actually used to warm the air before it went into the lungs, which would then sort of help it maintain its body temperature. When you breathe in, if you breathe in through your nose, and that's what we're designed to do in actuality, breathing in through our mouth is not really what we're designed to do. We breathe in through our nose. The air travels through a series of little tunnels, and it is warmed before it reaches our lungs. So that way we can maintain our thermal core temperature, our interior body temperature. So it may be possible that long tube was used for that. And then some people think it may have been this thing that would have enhanced their sense of smell to be incredible. They may have been able to smell things like food, water, and danger, other predators from a huge distance away. And then some people think, you know what, it may have been used for all of those things. I mean, there's people that have proposed that crest may have done nothing more than just acted as a visual display to attract the attention of other members of the family, sort of the way horns of a deer work or antlers of a moose work. A male moose has those great big antlers, and the bigger the antlers, the bigger the message that sends to the female mooses that he's a mature adult. So it could very well have been that crest may have been used for that as well. And there's also some debate whether there was a flap of skin that went from it down to its neck. You'll see a lot of images. If you go on and you start looking up Parasaurolophus, its name is spelled Parasaurolophus. If you go and look, you'll see some images have this sort of a thin membrane of skin behind it. That's not been proven or disproven. That's really more of the artist's personal ideas. So there's no way to know if it had that or not. But if it did, it may have been absolutely used to display how old it was and whether it was mature or not. Here's the coolest thing about Parasaurolophus. Scientists at Sandia National Laboratories in New Mexico, in New Mexico, and the New Mexico Museum of Natural History had teamed up together to try to recreate the sound this dinosaur made. What they did is they CAT scanned it and looked at the interior design, and then using a computer, they were able to sort of recreate that. and then estimating the size of the lungs and how much air could have gone through the tube and how much air could have traveled through those tubes. They recreated what they believe was the sound. If you go online and you Google Parasaurolophus sound, there's a bunch of videos on there that show the sound, or that will let you hear what these scientists believe this thing may have done, how it sounds. Obviously, there's absolutely no way to say with certainty that what their tests did was actually create the sound, but it's an example of using some of the highest tech science available to do the best they can do with what they've got. So if you want to hear what scientists believe a dinosaur sound like, Google Parasaurolophus sound, watch some of those videos, and you can kind of hear what they think it sounded like. Who knows? But I can tell you that hearing it is really, it's really an interesting thing. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear an interview with paleontologist, author, and artist Tracy Ford about his new book, Dinosaur Isle. Stick with me.
Would you like to buy fossil replica skulls, teeth, claws, and more? Then visit our catalog at store.dinosaurgeorge.com. We sell replicas rather than real fossils so that we don't deplete the resources. Our replicas and casts are museum quality and look real, but are much more affordable. From dinosaurs to ice-aged mammals to modern animal skulls, there is something for everyone. Visit our online catalog at store.dinosaurgeorge.com and start your collection of amazing fossil replicas today.
Most of the movies and the books we see and read about dinosaurs focus more on like the entertainment, but they don't really focus a lot on the science. Well, my guest today has written a fictional novel that includes both entertainment, but also based on real science. He is an author, a writer, an artist, and a self-taught paleontologist. It is Mr. Tracy Lee Ford. Tracy, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Looking forward to this.
Well, good. I'm glad we're able to get you. I know your schedule is a little crazy. So, looking at your bio, I was so impressed with the sheer volume of your work. But before we get into more details, let's start off by having you kind of tell us some of the things about you, sort of where you grew up, how you got interested in dinosaurs, that kind of stuff.
I grew up in L.A. We moved down to San Diego in 1970. All through school, I've always been interested in dinosaurs, and I can't just say like one thing that got me interested into it. Like there's no book, there's no movie or anything. I've just always been interested in it. My parents would take me to the L.A. when we were up in L.A. To the L.A. County library. And, I'd go to the kids' books, and then I'd go over to the adult side. And I remember one time they moved the books, and my dad couldn't find them on the adult side, and I just go looking around. I go, oh, there it is, right up there on top. Yeah, I found them. Yeah. And then, I graduated high school in 1976. That was before computers. No cell phones. I wanted to get more into dinosaurs, but I didn't know how. Then I started working at Sony. I worked there for 23 years. And in 1978, my parents and I, for my birthday, went out to the LA County Natural History Museum to check that out. And there was a book called Archosaurian Articulations in the bookstore. It was just a list of all the names of dinosaurs, and on a whim, I thought I'd write to the author. It was George Olszewski, and he was up in Toronto. I didn't hear back from him for months, and when I did hear back from him, he moved down to San Diego. And one of the names that was in the book was Compsognathus coralostrius,
right?
And that I saw a drawing of in a kid's book, and it was Compsognathus with like a flipper hand. And I was really interested in that, so I asked him about that and some other things. Well, he told me that he didn't have time to go to the libraries to get information. But I go, you know what? I'll go to the libraries. I'll get information. I'll make copies, for both of us. And through that, George introduced me to a lot of paleontologists. He, at the time, the only way to get into the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology was you had to be sponsored. So he sponsored me. My first meeting was in '84. It was in Berkeley. That's where I met Bacher and Horner and Curry and all the other, big names.
Right.
And ever since then, I just kept going. George was going to start a little publication, and I go, hey, I could draw. He goes, oh, okay. But he needed ink, and I only drew in pencil. So I asked my dad, who was a technical illustrator, what should I do? And he goes, do stippling. I go, okay, what's that? So he showed me how to do that. So not only my paleontology, but my artwork is also self-taught. And from there, I went into, met to the paleontologist, showed him my work, and they've, started publishing a little bit of my stuff. As I went to the meetings, they kept asking me, so what are you working on? And I'm not working on anything. I'm just coming here to enjoy what you guys are doing. But, they just kept asking me. And I go, well, I don't work at a university. I don't go to school. I don't work in a museum. They go, it doesn't matter. I remember talking to Ken Carpenter, and he goes, you read the journals, right? And the articles. I go, yeah. He goes, well, then you can write. So eventually I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. And I did. My first talk, published work was at the Mesa Southwest Museum on why I don't think theropods had lips. And from there, I went on. One of the things I also did, I wanted to contribute to paleontology. And one of the things I did at the time is, before the internet, I was able to go to the libraries and I'd find articles and I'd send articles to paleontologists. And sometimes they'd write to me and say, hey, can you get this? And this article, and I'd write to other museums and the universities and stuff, and finally, try to track it down for them. So I used to had a little business like that, but thanks to the internet, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
That's incredible, though. I mean, you're a shining example of somebody who took an absolute love and kind of created a career, a history around it. That's pretty impressive. And you must have been pretty on top of things, considering, like you said, before the internet, people today can just go in and Google a word. You've got to go in and actually do the research. That's a lot of work, man.
Oh yeah. When I'd drive around the United States on my vacations, I'd go to, I tell people my vacations are, and it's not like normal people. I go to museums, I go to dig sites, I go to libraries. I'd make sure I go to the library and look at all the new stuff, as well as the old.
But you're more normal compared to this audience than you would be to the general public. So everybody in this audience is screaming, "I'm just like you! I'm just like you!" Well, you are an incredibly accomplished artist. I've seen your work. Really, in fact, you even wrote a book, right, to help people understand how to draw dinosaurs. Is that right?
Well, what it is a compilation. I did Volume 1 and Volume 2, which is my first 25. Volume 1 is the first 25 articles in prehistoric times that I wrote, which is no longer available because those magazines are out of print. Volume 2 is the second 25, which I still think, even those, the only place you can get those articles is through my book. How to draw dinosaurs, and I use their anatomy, so it's not those little circles and lines. I try to show people, and then when research comes out and shows that I'm wrong, I'll come by and say, okay, this is what it is now. I was changed, I was wrong, and go on from there. I go where the science leads. As an artist,
Tracy, and obviously when you draw something, it becomes yours. I mean, it's an extension of you. Do you find it hard to have people criticize what they believe? And then do you find it hard to go back and change it when you are convinced finally that it needs to be altered?
Actually, no. No. Well, one of the things is right now in McFarland, I have a huge book. It's tentatively called Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Gliding and Flying Tetrapods. And in that book, I draw everything. I mean, I try to illustrate everything. And just for an example, what you're talking about is Archaeopteryx. I had to change my illustrations like 5 times because, more information would come out, and it's like, okay, I got the pubis wrong. I got to have it straight up, not down. Scott Hartman and Zellenhofer and a few others believe, and I now believe with them, is that the feathers on the wing only go to the elbow.
Really?
There are no there's no feathers from the inner elbow to the body.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to change that, and I did some other changes. But yeah, if something new comes out, I have to change it.
Right.
No problem.
Well,
because I want to be as accurate as I can.
And that's good, and that's the point. That's the point for all of you young people that are thinking about paleontology or anything, any science, is being flexible enough to understand that when new discoveries are made, you don't draw a line in the sand and argue every point. Now, for some things that haven't been proven, you stand your ground and you say, well, this is what I believe based on the evidence. Because, obviously, I see it today with feathers. As more feathered animals are being found, I think some of us went too far to one side and wanted to feather absolutely everything that ever existed. I'm surprised we didn't see feathered trilobites. So,
right.
So part of me,
I agree.
Part of me understands that, you've got to be flexible around the newest evidence, but you've also got to be careful that the newest evidence is being reviewed by everyone and not just somebody's proposed idea or theory. Correct.
Yeah, I totally agree. One of the things, going to SCP, I remember this, it was in New York. Phil Curry came up to me and my friend George, and he goes, hey, you know what? They found feathered theropods. It was like in the early 2000s.
Right.
And we go, oh, sure. And then he shows us the Sinosauropteryx pictures. And it's like, okay. And then they found some Dromaeosaurs. Okay. And they kept finding some of them. It's like, oh, wow. Yeah.
That's the exciting thing about, I guess, being a paleo artist is that so much can be changed. It's not like, if you've seen an elephant, you draw an elephant. It's not like you're ever going to go back and alter that elephant because we can look out we can go to a zoo or we can watch TV and see one. But with dinosaurs and with the things we don't know and now the things that we do know, that's got to be an exciting time for you to be able to go back and change some of the things that you've done.
Right. It's like the nose. And like in theropods, I used to always put the nose further back in the nasal area, but the work of Larry Whitmer and his crew are showing that the nose, the fleshy part was more towards the tip of the snout than the back, further up.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting. I like it. Things do change, and go from there.
Right. Now, you've also been associated with dozens of scientific papers. Kind of describe what exactly is a scientific paper, and then how is it that you got involved in? I know you've done so many, but just randomly pick one of them and kind of give us an overview of what sort of work you've done to be associated with some of the different scientific papers that you have been.
Well, like the first one I said I did was the theropod lips at the Mesa Southwest Museum. That was all by myself. Just trying to delve into it. And I did a couple other little short ones involved with them because I was able to work with them. And I didn't have to pay to get it published. And then Jim Kirkland, he was just on my case to work on the little ankylosaur down here found in Carlsbad. And he just said, "No, you got to do it. You got to do it." I go, "Well, I can't do it. I work 5 days a week." And then my division I was working at Sony was downsizing, and one of the new divisions to go to was a 3-day on, 4-day off, 4-day on, 3-day off division. And I told them, "Okay, I'm taking that, and I'm going to start working on Dinosaur." Seriously, that's my was thinking. How now I can work on it. So I go down to the San Diego Natural History Museum and I talk to them about it. And they go, "Yeah, sure. We're more than happy for you, to come in and volunteer and start working on it." But they wouldn't allow me to work there. And it wasn't because of anything I did. It's just because there was no room and it was real noisy. They asked them, "Can I take it home and work on it?" I go, "Yeah, sure." So I took pieces of the ankylosaur home. I bought an air scribe, which is a little jackhammer, and they showed me how to use it and prepared more of the bones. Then Jim and I, started to work on the paper. It was originally described by Coombs and now I can't remember his name. He's the head guy down at the San Diego Natural History Museum. Demery, Coombs and Demery. They thought it was a nodosaur. So as Jim and I are working on this paper and looking over the skeleton, he and I independently come to the conclusion that it's not a nodosaur, it's an ankylosaur. So we there was a Indiana University Press had a volume on Thyrophria, and we submitted to that and it got published. And it was for the longest time, the only named dinosaur in all of California.
Wow.
Leptopeltacumzi. I'm going to do a little side thing real quick. It really wasn't geologically from California, because if you look at the plate tectonics during the Campanian 70 million years ago, everything west of the San Andreas Fault was down by the southern coast of Mexico. Now, that's a little controversial. Not everybody believes that, but the research I've done and through a bunch of other people, that's what it looks like, which would also make it that and all the Baja dinosaurs the furthest south North American dinosaur assemblage. And if we wanted to look at what animals did live in San Diego or Southern California at that time, we have to go to British Columbia.
That's crazy.
That is how much that worked. So yeah, through Jim Kirkland, I was able to do the paper. I did a joint paper with Larry Martin on swimming psittacosaurs, and that just came because he and I met at the Tucson Rock Show, and we were talking, and he said he thought he saw years ago a juvenile what they were calling a salamander, but he goes, I could have sworn that was a psittacosaur, and it had a little tail fluke on it.
Right.
So I thought, hey, I drove to the hotel and I come back the next day. I go, hey, you want to do a joint paper? And he goes, sure, but I had to write it. But anyway, I go, that's fine. It was fun. I did the research. I had to found out we weren't the first who thought of that they were swimming. There was like 4 other people from various different angles. So I had that paper done. When I went down to the Society of Paleontology meeting in Mexico City, Dan Cherry and I were at the main museum looking around, trying to look at some of those, like Lobocanias, what he was looking at. Weird animal, really bad preservation. You really can't really tell what it is. And I was looking at the large hadrosaurs, and I was thinking about doing a paper on that. And as I was going through the drawers, it was kind of cool. I said, yeah, just go ahead and look at whatever you want.
Wow.
I saw some peculiar Tronosaur premaxillary teeth, which were, instead of being rounded in the front, they're flat. So it doesn't look like a D, it looks like a little rectangle.
Huh.
So I talked to Dan Cherry. He goes, hey, you want to do a joint paper? He goes, okay. So we did a joint paper on that. a lot of the other ones were just things that I find interesting that I want to do. And there's like maybe a dozen that I really need to work on and get published.
That's cool, though.
But yeah.
So after you do your paper, you do obviously all the necessary research in your paper and you document it. After that, do you just publish the paper, or do other people review what it is that you're making a claim in the paper? Do they review it, and then is it published?
Well, it depends on who you go. Some journals have a peer review, and some don't. So far, all the ones that I've done, I've tried to get peer review, because when other people look at it and critique it, it could be rejected. I've had several papers rejected.
Really?
Oh, yeah. But if you don't go through that process, the more scientific community will look down on you.
Sure.
Well, they won't maybe accept it as much as if you do go through the process.
Right.
And then as you go through the process, the reviewers will, hopefully good reviewers, will say, okay, this is what we like, this is what I don't like, maybe change this or expand on this part of the article. And there's like specific things that you need to have in the article. And it's just that it's better. Well, I guess right now better to have a peer review than not.
Right. Well,
and you don't have, like I said, you don't have to be an academic to go through a peer review.
Sure.
There's several people who have it published, because there's several people who have never had a degree in paleontology, and they've had their papers published.
Well, and again, if you are doing the necessary work and you're following the standards and you are getting it reviewed by people, then it becomes irrelevant. If your subject is correct and your research is correct, then it doesn't make that much of a difference if the word doctor appears before your name, or because you're right, there's a lot of students who are involved in papers, but they've not received their degree. So I can understand why, with you not having a degree in paleontology, you would prefer to go the route of having it peer reviewed, because people will take it more seriously. But it's certainly not a necessity. I mean, you can know about a subject and not have a higher education in that subject.
Right. Well, my prehistoric times articles, they're edited, but they aren't reviewed.
Right. Well, speaking about prehistoric times, you've got over 100 different publications in prehistoric times, which I find that amazing. And for those of you who are listening that it may not be familiar, Prehistoric Times is a really good magazine. If you're interested in paleontology, you can go to prehistorictimes.com, one word, and sign up and get this magazine. So you've done nearly 100 articles. How on earth do you choose the subject for that many? How do you choose the subject? Do they ask you for something in particular? Do you just arbitrarily decide what you want to do, or do readers ever ask you to write something?
Usually just me. I'll just come up with the idea. It's getting, actually I'm writing my 98th.
Wow.
I've got 2 more, and I'll have 100. But I wrote other things in the article, in Prehistoric Times. So, yeah, I have had a few requests, which I have done. But yeah, just mainly. It's interesting how that all got started. There was a Russian exhibit in Arizona. I think it was in Tucson. Well, anyway, and a Dinofest was there. It's not the same Dinofest that's going around today. It's back when they had like 4 days of solid talks and these huge exhibits and things. And I was there, and at the banquet, I sat next to Dr. Ned Colbert. I haven't been, I wouldn't say intimidated, but shy around many paleontologists, but he was always one of them. But he's a guy to go talk to, and he'll talk your ear off. But anyway, I was sitting at his table, and there was one seat next to me, and his son and his son's wife came by, and standing near the table, and I go, you know what? Here, go ahead and sit here so the whole family can all be together. And Ned goes, you don't have to do that. I go, nah. I look over and I see Bob Bacher and Mike Fredericks sitting at a table, and there's a chair there, and I go, nah, I'll go bother Bacher. So he laughs. So when I go over there and I sit down, and that's when I approached Mike and I go, hey, how about if I do a series of articles on how to draw dinosaurs? He goes, sure. That's how that started. And
nice.
We've been friends ever since. And yeah, I can't believe it's been almost 20 years.
That's amazing. It's a great publication. Yeah. You know, what I really like about it is how it is a platform to be able to show people's work, artists' work, artists who may not be recognizable in the industry, who may not have the most unbelievable artistic skills, and yet you still get the opportunity to see their work. And that's one of the things I really like about the magazine, is how it is reaching out to both academia and just the standard, or just the everyday, person that likes dinosaurs. So that's really cool. All right. So let's talk about your novel, Dinosaur Isle. I got the copy you sent me. Thank you for autographing it, by the way. It's very kind of you.
You're welcome.
I read this thing. I was on the road for 8 solid weeks. So every evening when we'd go to the hotel, I'd sit down and read part of it. It is really a great book. And I love how you incorporated actual paleontologists and their work, as well as creating fictional characters in it. So tell us a little bit, just sort of give the listeners an overview of the story of what the book is about.
Well, one of the things I wanted to prove was that you could have a science fiction book that is enjoyable, but also has science in it. Originally, I kind of wanted it to be a Jurassic Park 4, and that didn't quite work out. There was a bunch of logistics problems with it. So I had to change a few things. And one of the things that my aunt, who's in the Hollywood, and I met Robert Dean Foster. He's a science fiction writer. They both told me to make the book my own. Don't worry about Jurassic Park, just make the story your own. And I just shelved it because I go, well, I got to figure out how to do this. And then the work of Mary Schweitzer and Jack Horner and all those, soft tissue and finding the veins and all that, and blood, and there it is. That's how I'll do it. I go from there, and it sort of followed a little bit along lines of Jurassic Park at first, but then it's the story, a lot of times writes itself. So, right
now, you used the actual work and the names of these people that are on the front line doing this research. Did you contact them in advance to say, hey, I'd like to incorporate you into a story, or did you do it and then say, hey, here's a way that I'm honoring you for your work? How did you go about doing that?
More like I did it and I'm honoring you, and here it is. They're all happy for it. I just saw I went to at the meeting in the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology, and I saw a couple of them, and I gave them here's my book. I saw Mary, and I go, here's my book. I'm using your science, and keep it up. And she was all happy. And Caldwell, he's one of the names. I did use several names of people I know.
Sure.
Because I couldn't figure out who else to use. He goes, "Oh, am I a bad guy?" I go, "No." He goes, "I don't want to be a bad guy."
Should have given him superpowers or something.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. Well, I will tell you, the thing that stood out the most for me in the story is how you took the story and used it as a way to introduce and to touch on some of the more recent information and science research, rather than just create some fictional imagery about the animal. I really liked how you did that.
Yeah, that's right. That's kind of like one of the things I wanted to do, because I didn't want to go off and start making mutant dinosaurs or robotic cyborg dinosaurs or anything. I want to be true to the research as much as I can, and true to the animals, and I just think they're interesting just the way they are.
Well, what is so impressive, and for any of you out there that are interested, you can buy Tracy's book on my website, store.dinosaurgeorge.com. We're now selling his book. One of the things that is really cool is the glossary at the end, where you've notated comments about individual animals. At the glossary, divided by chapter, so it's easy to find where these references are, you notate the science behind the comment. Like, for instance, in the book, you don't go into great detail explaining how a dromaeosaur can climb, but in the glossary, you notate the science behind the comment in the story. That's really a brilliant idea to do that.
Right. That just shows like I'm not making this stuff up on my own. I'm just showing that, okay, this is these animals could do this. Another one was where I don't want to give it away. So yeah, I want the readers to know that, and hopefully get excited about paleontology and the science, that, hey, wow, this is cool. This really did happen, or this really could happen.
It's frustrating that entertainment is the priority with most television shows and most movies. That entertainment actually supersedes education, and that's frustrating. I've been caught in the middle of that myself, where the network is saying, we want something over the top fantastic, and you're sitting there going, but what could be more over the top and fantastic than some of the dinosaurs that existed? So why do we insist on doing that? I love how you've met that balance between entertainment, because your book is very entertaining. From the first couple of lines, I went, crap, I'm going to read this entire chapter before I put it down. So you've met the entertainment side, but you've still demonstrated how science, true science, can be incorporated and still be incredibly entertaining. Right.
That was my goal, so I'm glad that came across.
Well, it did. So let me ask you something. The opening lines, the first visual that you get when you read your book, how difficult is it to sit down and decide what's going to be the opening line when you're writing a novel? How hard is that to do?
Well, it's kind of, it's a little hard. I actually, my friend George, as I was talking to him, that's one of the first things he told me was, the very first paragraph, you got to get the reader's attention. So I had an idea of what was happening, and then I had to put that into words. And that actually took several times to finally get to the final part, but yeah. And then just trying to describe how things happen, you got to have a descriptive narrative, and sometimes that was more the difficult part, was trying to describe, what the animals, or the interaction of the people, the climate,
right,
how they feel, and you got to put all that into words so that people understand them.
Well, absolutely. And again, why I keep going back to this, and I keep harping on this, but it's because I found it amazing. The use of the glossary to describe all that is so much better than if you were trying to describe it in the actual in the body of the story, because that then would have taken away from the excitement of what's happening, or the, in your mind, you visualize these things doing this. You don't want to stop and go off to the side and get the scientific speech that explains it. It's so much better to read it at the end, because when you get to the end of the book and you go, well, Now that makes sense, or that I understand that now. Now I get. So I can't say enough about the way you wrote this book. It was really a good read, and I really liked it a lot, Tracy. It's really good.
Oh, that's good to hear. I'm glad that. Yeah, I've got good reviews on it. I'm just hoping for better sales.
Well, yeah, but that's, you get back to the same problem of there's 40 million books, and where do you begin? How do you find it? If you don't sell a lot initially, then you don't get as much attention, and it just frustrates you to have something that's as good as this that isn't front of mind or is not something that people. I love the cover, by the way. I love the use of Styracosaurus on the cover. That's really cool, and that's a big, bold statement. So I like it a lot. And again, for any of you that are interested in the book, you can go to my website, store.dinosaurgeorge.com, and you can find his book there. Are there any plans to do a follow-up? You thinking about maybe a follow-up book to this?
Well, originally, yes. It depends on sales. It's going to be at least a 3-part story.
Nice.
And I've have initial lies, most of what was going to happen on book 2. I have an outline. So depends on how things work out. I do want to write. I want to write a lot.
Right.
But I do want to write more in this series. So, it might take a little while, but, it gets done.
Well, and obviously you've got a lot on your plate, but I think one of the things that's missing when it comes to children's books is that I think a lot of people that write children's dinosaur books truly are just grabbing things from other books already written and plugging them in. They're perpetuating information that has long been since disproven, and yet it still shows up in kids' books. And the other thing that I find wrong with a lot of children's books is that they make the assumption that kids are not as advanced as they are. And so what I would love to see, maybe in your future, would be if you could write a children's book that would incorporate some interesting little stories, but still using your knowledge of the science to make it an educational, entertaining book. What do they call it? Edutainment. That may be a niche that I think you could fill, because you've done that in your current novel for adults. And what I'm saying is that I think if it was done directed at kids, but with your same ability to make an interesting story scientifically factual, there may be a huge opportunity there as well. I think a lot of kids get frustrated because dinosaur books are either so far beneath them or so far over their head, they don't find that happy medium. And that, that can be frustrating if a kid likes dinosaurs. They got to have more than just picture books to look at.
Right. Yeah, I kind of want to do something like that.
Right.
So yeah, I'll eventually, because I gotta get. I want to get to as many niches as I can, like
sure.
Adults and young adults and kids.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, for anybody, I can tell you, for anybody that likes dinosaurs and likes entertainment, I recommend, especially now in time for the holidays, to pick up a copy of Dinosaur Isle. It is by author Tracy Lee Ford. You can buy Dinosaur Isle on our website catalog, which is store.dinosaurgeorge.com, or you can go to Amazon and find it. And of course, all the other stuff that you do can be found on there as well. You can also follow Tracy on Facebook. If you search Tracy L. Ford, you can follow him on Facebook, because I know you're constantly uploading stuff that you're doing there. Is there anything that's coming up that you can share? I know some stuff you may not be able to share, but is there anything exciting coming up that you can think of other than your 100th story for the publication, right, for Prehistoric Times? Other than that, is there anything else coming up?
Not really. I'm trying to, since I've been working on that one huge book that I sent to McFarlane. By the way, I sent in 3,000 pages.
Oh my God.
Over 1,500 illustrations.
Wow.
So yeah,
wow.
I've taken me years to do that. I need to update one of my websites, and I will finally be able to, because I have like a stacks of information to put into it.
Right.
But after that, then I'm going to start. There's another secret project I want to see if that'll work.
Nice.
But I want to write some, go back to, write some more articles and maybe get back into writing, maybe do that little kids book thing. Who knows?
Right.
But yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
he is an author and a writer and an artist and a paleontologist, and his newest book is Dinosaur Isle, and it's available just in time for the holiday season. Mr. Tracy Lee Ford, I absolutely loved your book, and it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Hopefully you'll consider coming back and being a guest again with us in the future.
Oh, you bet. It's been fun. Enjoy this.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tracy.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I really appreciate Tracy coming on and giving us some time. I know he's busy this time of the year, and from what it sounds like, he's busy every time of the year. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love talking about Parasaurolophus. Make sure to go online and do some research on that guy if you want more information. I'm sorry I didn't have time to do any Ask Dinosaur George stuff, but I promise you guys I'm not deleting all of the questions that you're submitting. I'm keeping them on so that I can try to get to some of them. So if you've submitted questions, have some patience, and I hope to get to some of them soon. Make sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You'll see links on my podcast page. My podcast is dinosaurgeorgepodcast.com. Also, visit my online catalog, store.dinosaurgeorge.com. It's the holiday season, and I hope if you're looking to get something for yourself or for somebody you know, I hope you'll give my store a look, and I hope you'll find something you like. Make sure to check my website, dinosaurgeorge.com. Until next time, everybody, take care of yourself, take care of the people around you. Let's be kind and courteous to everybody out there, because it makes the world a much nicer place. Until next time, I am Dinosaur George.
Thank you for listening to the Dinosaur George Show. Please follow us on our social media links and join our mailing list. If you're interested in having Dinosaur George speak at your event, please visit our website at dinosaurgeorge.com. Until next time, keep digging for clues about the past.